let's see, Jennifer Phillips will also be late. Jody Rail and Bruce Schenker. Okay. Is Christina Bonzak here?
She'll be
coming,
late.
or?
She'll be joining us
Okay.
around 10:30, so we'll move her her agenda item down a bit.
Okay.
Is that it, Maureen?
That's it. That's all the
Okay.
members.
Thank you very much.
Thank
And
you.
Tara just joined, I see. Tara Donadio. Hi, Tara.
Got it.
So minutes. Any comments or amendments to the minutes? If not, we'll take a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
Thank you, Bill. A second. Great.
I'll second.
Thank you. Noted. Any opposed, please speak up. All in favor. Great. Thank you all. I think that's it. Okay. Couple quick updates. There were a couple articles that were published. One announcing Don's. It was the Chairman's Corner. Chairman Morrell wrote announcing Don Meltz joining us as the coordinator, which we're thrilled about. And it was a good article, and we appreciate Chairman Morrell highlighting the work of the task force and Don joining us. And the second article was an article in the Columbia paper that Deborah Lands wrote, which I sent around, which just highlighted the savings and the cost efficiency of a lot of the technology upgrades that Supervisor Knott has been really leading at the county level for a number of years. And it was a very favorable article that I think explains to people the benefits, to the economic benefits, aside from the climate benefits, in addition to the climate benefits of a lot of these actions. So that was great. There was an event that I think many of us know about, or some of us went to, which was at Columbia Green a couple of weeks ago. The Empire Center organized it to talk about concerns related to electrification. Obviously, a lot of the changes that in reducing climate greenhouse gas emissions relate to electric vehicles, heat pumps, and a shift away from fossil fuels. That's obvious. So the questions that were raised there had to do with the grid capacity and the timing. Thought it was notable and interesting that the energy fellow from the Empire Center said he just didn't disagree with the goals of the Climate Act. He just was concerned about the timing of some of the deadlines. So we're not here to debate that, but just, the point I think that's important to note is there are some diverse views and a lot of interest in the issues, because this is one of the major issues of our time. And there's a lot of change and some uncertainty around that change over the next 10, 20, 30 years. And it's important that we're aware and open-minded about what people are concerned about, and that we stick to the facts, and that we work on consulting with experts to drive what we do, including timing and what's feasible and what's not. If anyone wants to add anything about that, we don't want to get into a debate right now. We're not trying to debate one side or the other. If there are even delineated sides of what was there, there was a diversity of views that were shared during that seminar. And I just wanted to mention it because I think the bottom line, I think, for us is there's a desire for information. And I think we can play a role in providing apolitical, nonpartisan information for people, because these changes, a lot of them that are here now and coming, are affecting all of our lives, hopefully for the better as we move forward. But people need information, and they need to figure out how they can take advantage of some of the opportunities. So those are my 2 cents and my observations, but just mine personally. And I'm happy for anyone else to comment if they have anything to say. So we can move on. We're going to skip over clean heating cooling for now until Christina joins us. We wanted to talk a little bit about grant money, and the first thing is we received for that clean heating cooling campaign, the $15,000 NYSERDA grant. I don't know if the money actually came in the door or it's going to be a reimbursement. Don, you want to give us a quick update on that? You're muted. Still muted, Don.
So we were actually have the opportunity to apply for the grant is the way it works. So and we because it's of a certain amount, it's over the $5,000 limit. Anything under 5,000, the state just gives the county a check for five grand, and we can spend it any way we want. But because it's larger, we have to, and I went over this a little bit last month. You know, we have to pick from a set of 5 or 6 pre-approved projects. I sat down with our county engineer, Ray Jerkowski. We went through the list and we came up with 2 that seemed to apply, which were installing solar panels on the DSS building, which is we have not started it yet, but it's in the planning stages, or other energy upgrades to the DSS building, which are again the same. It's in the same that's really the same project, but more internal energy efficiency upgrades. The building improvements require that an energy audit be done first before we can apply for the grant, and which is in the process. It's kind of standard operating procedure now that we do these energy audits before we do any improvements to the buildings. But then, of course, the contractor is not going to want to wait around for the NYSERDA approval for the grant before they actually start the project. So we thought that was kind of the timing issue was just a little kind of tight, the requirements. It would be easier for us to apply for the solar panels that are being installed on the DSS building. There were fewer restrictions on that. I think we checked that the contractor has to be a New York Sun approved contractor. We checked that, and they are. And so I think it's just a matter of assembling whatever documentation we need for the application, sending it to the proper government committees. It goes to the Board of Supervisors for their approval. And once all that's done, we can send the whole package to the state to apply for that $15,000 grant. And then we would apply that money towards those, the solar panel energy portion of that project.
Great. Thanks, Don, for the update and for following up on all the details there. We also brought in 5,000, which was I think just a payment because it is under that level from the energy benchmarking work that Wendy did last year. So a total of 20,000 so far. And we have discussed, Don and I have discussed just keeping a simple accounting spreadsheet of money that comes in from the work that we do, and the money will either go into the treasury, like that 5,000, and be spent as income, and as of right now, or it would be this kind of reimbursement for a project. And this is in the bylaws that were adopted recently. When we want to spend money as a task force, we obviously don't have the authority to write a check. We have to go to the Board of Supervisors and request it. So the way it will work is we'll make a request within the budget cycle, the annual budget cycle, for particular projects that we want to work on. And we can reference the income that we've brought into the county as and we'll work within that income. And maybe we'll ask for something beyond that if we think it's something that would be worth the county's effort. So that's how it's kind of working right now. Pretty simple. money comes in, let's get it to work. Let's make sure we don't miss out on grants like the NYSERDA grant. So it goes to a solar project. Great. It's furthering our mission. And then when we come back and we need a funding for something, we make a request and we go through that process, and hopefully that gets allocated to us in the subsequent year, and we'll keep track of that. I don't know how some of the towns have done it. I could see us doing something more complicated in the future, which might make sense if the funds get larger, or more of them, more grants, where we actually have some sort of accounting income account for task force income, which is more specifically accounted for. But for now, I think it works. Please speak up, Supervisor Knott or Collins, if you have any clarifications here, if you want to take issue with anything, how I've characterized it. But that's how I think we can proceed.
No, I agree. I spoke with David yesterday, but I think Donnie and I will sit down someday with a controller and make sure that we're tracking all of this best we can so that we have an accounting. So most of it's pretty straightforward, but we will be presenting, Donnie will be able to present the committee with better information in the future.
Great. Steve and then Terrence.
A couple things. One is that, it's possible to combine these grants. If we want a larger solar project there, you can combine it with the other money that's come in, including the funds for the community solar. I don't know how much we've gotten from that. That's a possibility. And also since we're in the process of doing this right now too in New Lebanon, there may be, and Tara can clarify, the potential of getting an additional incentive on top of that money. I don't know if there's a cap on that, but we found out we're using the $70,000 that we got from the CEC program, and we found out there's an additional incentive on top of that. So we're getting another $4,200 on top of that 70,000 just for installing it there. So I don't know if there's an additional incentive on top of that, say if you just wanted to limit it to the 15,000.
Yeah, well, there is I'm looking a little bit towards the future. I think the next grant, it's all again point based, but the next thing that we will probably qualify for is if we do this heat smart demo, the heat pump demo, which again, I talked to Ray Jukowski about that, and the solid waste department at Greenport Transfer Station. That building is 100% heated and cooled with heat pumps. So that qualifies for a heat pump demo. And we just put a little display in that building or possibly somewhere else that promotes, the electrification of these buildings. And we would qualify for another 700 points just for doing that. I also talked to Patrice about doing some trainings, because the planning department is always doing trainings for different, planning boards and ZBAs. And if we do two, we usually do one a year anyway, but if we do two of those, that would gain us another 600 points. Combine that with the fact that we are getting bronze certified. So that would give us a total of 3,100 points, which qualifies us for a $30,000 grant next time. And if again, that still has to be picked from one of those 6 categories that I went over last month. So that grant money has to be applied to something like that. Well, we have other projects coming up, like there's some upgrades at the highway garage too that we're looking at. But if that money were spent in the city of Hudson, then that would bump that 30 grand up to 40 grand, an additional $10,000 on top of that if the project were located inside the city of Hudson. So yeah, we're looking at, I think we're pretty close. I mean, I've been talking about this with Wendy and with Patrice, and it's, it seems like a pretty easy thing to accomplish there to get us up to that 3,100 point total to qualify for those grants.
Great.
That's really great. Thanks,
Yep.
Terrence.
Yeah, I also that is great. I was just going to clarify, Don, are both of those projects happening regardless of the grant? So the solar panels and the audit and then efficiency
Yes,
upgrade?
yes,
Yeah.
they are, but that, but that doesn't matter. I mean, again, we checked with Tara and, as long as they haven't started yet,
Mhm.
that's fine. So they will qualify. And I think and again, I don't know how far along the upgrades at the highway garage are. I think they're still in the planning phase. I don't know. But so we have projects in the works that we can apply these grant monies towards. Yes.
That's great.
Yeah, it's great to see how these things are dovetailing. These are projects that are being worked on, that are advancing, the mission here. Anyway, they make sense for the county to save money, and we can then use them to qualify for more grants to do more work in the future. So it's all very exciting, and thanks for being so on top of it, Don. Any other comments on that? I don't think there's much more to talk about. Oh, one thing I would say, Steve, in response. We're trying to track down specific numbers on the community solar. That's still actually kind of dragging. There have been some questions raised about the people waiting for subscriptions still for a year or almost a year in some parts of the county, and so we're working with the two providers. We're reaching out to them to clarify timing and what is occurring. Don, did we get an update on the number? I mean, we need to circle back with Wendy and the providers before we do that. But we're working on just making sure that the numbers that we had originally, what has happened with all of those folks. Have they gotten the subscription yet, or are they on a wait list? When are they going to get it? And then we're also making sure that the funding comes in, which I don't believe it has yet, for those the $100 per subscriber to the county, and then there'll be some funding that goes out to some of the towns that participated. That hasn't happened yet, I don't believe. But once we do, we'll put that on our accounting spreadsheet, make sure that we're aware of that money goes to the Treasury, but we're aware it's there, and then we can request funding under that in a subsequent budget cycle. Matthew.
Hi. Yeah, thanks, David. Thanks for bringing this up. Since we're on the subject, I figure if we have Tara here, Tara, you may have told, because I know here in Germantown, nobody has received it yet. And we just, we don't know what happens if people defect. What's the scenario? Because I can't control if people decide to go someplace else.
So I can't speak to the what the solar companies will do with that case, for their incentive. But as far as the NYSERDA funding that you guys, I don't know, Germantown did get a grant, right, for the 10 signups? Is that right?
We did, yeah.
Okay.
But nobody's gotten community solar yet, so yeah.
Right. So as far as that goes, just the fact of signing up is all that NYSERDA needs. They're not going to take that money back from you. So that piece is said and done, but I can't speak to what, Neighborhood Sun or the other company will do in that case.
I would imagine they would withdraw the incentive, but all right. I just wanted, my major concern was the grants from NYSERDA and stuff like that. Okay. Thank you.
We'll get clarification on all this. Make sure people are aware so they can communicate it out to their constituents in their communities. But thanks for bringing it up, Matthew.
Sure.
So Jolene, are you on the call?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, Jolene.
Hi, how are you?
Well, I'm well, thank you. I hope you're well too. We'd love an update on the waste digester and the upcoming demo. And
Absolutely. So we extended an invitation to everyone on this committee and also reached out to the local media and the smaller groups that are out in Columbia County to come and see a demonstration of the digester here at the Greenport Transfer Station on Friday, April 21st, 10:30. We're going to have representatives from EcoRich who's going to explain how the digester works, and we'll be doing some demonstrations. We'll also have some packets that we'll be handing out to everyone, giving you some more detailed information. So we're hoping that at this event, we give you the tools that you need to reach out into the community and kind of promote this on our behalf. We're going to be meeting with all our station attendants on the 18th for the kickoff to ramp it up at our transfer stations. So we're hoping everybody that can make it comes out that day and sees the digester in operation.
Great. That's very exciting. So that's the 21st, Friday the 21st at 10:30, if you can make it. Thank you so much for that. That's an exciting project. I don't know, Jolene, while we have, if there's an update on the Climate Carnival.
Yes, there is. So Don
Okay,
and I went out to the fairgrounds, and we are booked for September 14th of 2024. We did add additional building for usage. So hopefully that will be able to expand. Normally the fairgrounds would charge $2,800 for the buildings that we are looking at utilizing. But because we had such a successful event and they really want to participate, they offered us a price of $1,400. As Terrence already has $600 left over from our last event, if the committee would like to proceed with this, we will, I believe we'll probably have to do a resolution before the planning committee. But we can use that $600 as a down payment, and we can start our advertising efforts for promotion for the next event. So I assume everybody wants to do it again. So Don, I'll work with you and Patrice for the resolution.
Yep.
Great. And would the resolution request the funding to make up the balance of the payment?
We'll have to do that through fundraising. I'm not sure if the planning department, I don't think they have a budget yet for this committee. So we'll have to do fundraising efforts like we did last time, but I don't think there'll be an issue.
Okay, great. And do we have a committee that is actively convened to continue to work with you and Don?
Well, if there's anybody that would like to, work with us this time around, if they want to shoot myself or Don an email, that would be really, really helpful. The more people, people from the outside community that, would want to help participate, we would love to have some new ideas and, some additional help. That would be great.
Great. Thanks, Jolene.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, great. Well, we're going to shift gears here. Anything else on the carnival before we shift gears? We've got a year and a half to plan this, so it's going to be good. It's going to be great. We are going to shift back to Christina Bonsack to talk about the clean heating, cooling, and efficiency campaign. But before we do that, Supervisor Knott had a comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to share with everybody, I have to jump off the meeting to another meeting, but at the full board meeting in April, we're going to have Patterns for Progress do a presentation on EV chargers. I did confirm that with Kelly that they are on this agenda. That was scheduled a couple months ago and it didn't happen, but I have seen part of their presentation and it's very useful information for any municipalities looking at where to locate these things. So if you've got time and can do that, that's a good thing to watch in. Just wanted to share.
Great.
That. Thanks.
Thank you. So back to Christina for an update on the campaign.
Hi, everyone. So the campaign's going well, slow and steady. Obviously the county has reached their goals. None of the municipalities that signed on individually have yet reached theirs, but we're getting close in a few. Yeah, things are rolling in. Actually got an email this morning from I think the first person who came to the webinar at the end of February and has gone through the whole NYSERDA process to get funding for a project, and she's having her energy audit today. So that's actually a pretty good turnaround, about 6 weeks. And she's all the way through and approved and should be getting financial assistance to get a heat pump in her home. So that's really awesome. I'm really glad that the incentive side is kind of taking off. There's a lot of leads coming in for that assistance rather than people just being able to go out and purchase a heat pump directly. So I think overall it's going well, just a little bit slower. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions? Sorry, go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, no, I had a question. Thanks for the update. We had talked about some events in addition to the Zoom. Are there any updates on plans for future events?
I will be doing a little Zoom with Chatham on the 17th. I did an in-person meeting in Germantown last month. And then I believe that there's going to be a coordination of a bunch of other Northern Columbia County towns at some point. They're doing a lot more kind of tabling at street fairs and things like that, which I probably won't be as much hands-on with, but I've given a lot of NYSERDA handout materials to Don, who's made them available in Hudson for anyone who wants to pick them up. Like, I know we're going to have them at our Earth Day event, just kind of out for people to pick up and kind of like more passively get involved that way.
That's great. So if anyone is participating in any kind of local events, farmers markets coming up or birthday events, and can put some of this information out there and talk to people about it, it's a great thing to add to the table if you haven't thought about it yet. So I assume, Christina, you have more information you can provide to people if they need it.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing I wanted to mention that we did in Germantown, we have our 5 installers and I'm tracking those for all the towns. But we had the town send out a, just like a MailChimp update, and it told the community about this campaign and just said, if you've had a heat pump installed since we gave the date that the scoping documents were due, were approved for us, please email this email address. We gave the CSC email address. And so we actually got a few people in that way from other providers, which was, easy.
That's great. That's good. Bonus. Well, thanks for your update. Steve has a comment.
Question, Christina, is the Chatham one going to be virtual?
Yes.
Okay. Can you send out those details to everybody?
Yes.
And we'll
I don't have the link yet, but I definitely will. I'll put it on this chain.
Great,
I'll
thanks.
send the flyer a little bit later after this meeting.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Great.
We'll
All
promote
right. Great. Well, let's keep rolling. We just a couple quick updates here. Government operations, greenhouse gas inventories. I don't know if Don, if you have an update other than the fact that it's something that we're working on, that Don is working on collecting information. Anything to add?
No, just I'm still waiting to gain access to the Muni system. It's multiple people have to sign off on that because it's considered very fairly delicate information. It's all complete access to county finances. So I'm just kind of waiting for that process to happen. A couple people were on vacation, so that's taking a little bit longer. But yeah, as soon as I get access to that system, it's just a matter of pulling the numbers out of that and plugging them into the spreadsheet and following through. So
Great. We're good.
Yeah, so that's where that is right now.
All right. Thanks, Don.
Yep.
I hope you get your top secret clearance soon.
I hope I pass the background check.
Cool. I don't think we have an update on the climate adaptation resilience plan, other than there was a survey that was sent out for towns and for the county to fill out for information that they had requested. Does anyone have anything else other than that? I don't know. I don't think Audrey's on. But has anyone heard, Tara, maybe about anything else that's happening there yet?
I don't have anything to add, no.
No.
Okay.
Audrey did send me an email, so I can just give you a quick paragraph here that they've received quite a few responses to the questionnaire. They're going to send out a follow-up reminder for those they haven't received yet. They're including COPAIC in the process. They found another funding source or something, so I guess COPAIC wasn't in it before, so they're adding COPAIC into the process. And then the next step is to put together a set of municipal meetings, I guess, once they have all these contacts from the questionnaire assembled.
Mhm. Okay.
And start that evaluating their current plans and processes for, whether they acceptably mitigate and adapt to climate change. So
Great. Sounds like
she asked me to help her with a couple of things with some data collection, and we're going to have a in-person meeting a little bit later this month with Audrey.
when do you think there'll be opportunities for the community members to start providing input? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, this is, let me see if she gives a date. I think no specific date here, but I think once this initial survey is all complete and done, then the next step is they're going to reach out to the contacts that they gained from that first questionnaire. And so I assume sometime this month is the way it
Okay.
looks like.
Great.
But
Well,
she didn't give me a specific date yet. Yeah.
Good. Hopefully that heats up.
Yep.
Soon. That's great. So shifting to EV fast charging, we had Don and I had another call with Livingston Energy. We've been talking about what type of model might work for the county, and they've agreed to cut, and they provided more information. They are interested in coming down and assessing some of the top locations that we identify, looking at power supply, looking at land ownership and opportunities to actually structure a plan for one of those sites, one or more, and then looking at what the business model would be for that. We've been clear that there's not an appetite. We don't believe there's an appetite for the county to participate, and maybe when presented with information, we might find that there is some sort of appetite, but we've really been pretty clear that we're looking for private businesses to come in and invest in setting up these DC fast chargers, and they're interested in doing that. So they've said. So we have, Don has started to pull together, being a planner with mapping skills, and is very helpful here. So he started to pull together some information. We had talked about some locations previously, all of us had, and one was the Valatia Hannaford Plaza, which is being expanded right now. There's some construction going on there that supervisor not told me about. Restaurant and banquet facilities on one side of it, so that maybe it becomes even more interesting. And we had talked about something near the current the Rip Van Winkle Bridge, and that part of that 23, 82 coming in, and 9 coming in to that down over the bridge. We had also talked about something, the Love's facility, the gas station up on in Chatham, North Chatham, near 90. And Don pulled some information. Don, are you going to share that information?
Yeah, I have a little, doing a little research into this. I found, and just talking to the Livingston folks, the things that they kind of look at, it seemed to me that traffic patterns were a big thing. You want to locate these along traffic corridors. They have a lot of people driving by, but try to match that up with the electrical grid. Is there electrical grid supply available there? So I'm going to try to share my screen here if I can. Let's see. Window. Okay. Can everyone see that? Is that up?
Yep.
On the screen? Okay. So I put together this little map of, it's actually, I won't go into the tech side of it, but it's actually kind of like live data here that I plugged in here. The New York State DOT has an online map that shows, traffic patterns and average daily traffic on all the major roads. all of the electrical companies now publish publicly their grid capacity for various uses. One and they, one of them is electrical vehicle load capacity. So I just put together this little online map, and we'll zoom in here. For instance, we'll take a look at the. This is the area by the bridge here. And also I added in existing EV chargers. So this yellow one here is the Tesla charger at the Stewart's near the bridge. I circled it in purple because that was just one of the areas that Dave and I had kind of identified. These thick green lines are, let's see which that is. Yeah, that's National Grid. If I turn that on and off, this is National Grid's 3-phase power supply. And if it's green, that means it has over greater than 1.5 megawatts capacity left there. So that means that's a good spot. So there's traffic there. There's grid capacity. If I turn off so yes, the yellow lines here, you can see if I turn that on off, you can see the yellow. If I can click on that, it'll have a little pop up. So this gets like close to 8,000 vehicle trips per day on average for the year. So that's one of the higher traffic areas in the county.
What was the highest, Don? We remember it was like 13,000 somewhere.
Yeah, if I zoom out here, this let's see. Well, obviously like I-90 and Taconic State Park might get pretty high in the southern end, obviously.
Just for context.
Yeah, I-90 gets like 22,000.
Just to get a little bit of context there, but 8,000 is quite high for the county.
Yeah. Oops. Sorry, I know I do this and everybody gets a little dizzy as I zoom in and out of the map here. But so I put this little map together, try to get a handle on where some locations might be. Just like one in looking at Hudson. There's good traffic in and out. The yellow lines are higher traffic than the green. So Hudson gets quite a bit of traffic. But if you turn on the energy grid here, which I believe that's National Grid, you can see that the grid in Hudson is a little more constrained. So the green areas are high capacity. These red lines are, again, 3-phase power, but it is let's see. So this is less than 15, more than, no, I think it's actually equal to or less than 600 kilowatts capacity here. So, and I don't know what these DC fast chargers need, what their requirements are, but the fact that they are indicating this on a map that is supposed to be used to evaluate electrical vehicle charging capacity, it means that probably these areas in Hudson are not up to snuff.
For fast chargers, but
for fast chargers, this is all for fast charging.
Yes.
Level 2, you can put those on. That's just a 240 volt service.
So Don, do you want to give us a quick? I know there's a couple hands up, but do you have any spots that we are considering as candidates that you want to show us real quick? I mentioned a few because we'd like to get feedback from folks and then go back to Livingston Energy and set up some meetings for them to come down and assess these locations. We don't have a specific number in mind, but I think maybe we'll look at 2 or 3 locations, top 2 or 3 to start with.
Yeah, well, yeah, we had the bridge, obviously, and also, you know, we're gonna have to take into consideration what the property owners are like in that area. You know, I think
Right.
there is some state. The county doesn't own any land near the bridge. There's a college. There is some state property around the roundabout. You know, I don't know if they would be interested in putting in the state, but that would be more of a state project, obviously. We looked at Bell's Pond area. It looks like there's good capacity there and good traffic flow in that area. We looked up here in the Kinderhook area, again around the Hannaford Plaza area, and there's Hannaford Plaza, there's a bank, there's a school, a few other businesses that might be interested in hosting one of these charging stations, and it also providing something to do while it's not like you're stopping at a gas station. These chargers, they take at least a half an hour to go from 20 to 80%, and some of them might take an hour if you want a full charge. So we're looking for places that people have something to do while they're waiting to charge up their EV. So we looked at Hannaford Plaza. It looks pretty good. It's got an all green in the grid there. The one that Livingston pointed out, and I wasn't sure, and both Dave and I were a little questioned it a little bit, but they looked at Germantown. And let me turn these other. And I did look into that a little bit more, Dave, and it is actually fair from the southern end of the county. 9G does get a fairly substantial traffic. It's probably the highest traffic level at the southern border of the county, entering Columbia County. And what's also interesting is there are no Red Hook has some level. These yellow dots are level 3 or DC fast charging, but the infrastructure, like in Tivoli and northern, I think this is Red Hook here, right? It just isn't there for a fast charger. And it's all red, it's like low capacity in this area on this 9G corridor until you get up into Germantown. So maybe that's something that they were looking at. I don't know. So I thought that was kind of an interesting observation.
And then Love's up north was another one.
Yes. Yep. The Canaan. Yep. Canaan
Yeah.
Section here. Yes, this is Love's travel.
I assume it checks all the boxes.
Yeah. Yes.
At least maybe not like local, maybe not the amenities that.
Right. And I also added these at Livingston. They mentioned this NEVI program. I think that's a federal program where they wanted to, along these, what they call alternative fuel vehicle travel corridors, and it has to be within a one travel mile of that corridor, which the Love's station it is within a mile of this exit. So I think that
So we have 3 or 4 locations that we're currently kind of noodling on. And now, Don, thank you. This is really great stuff. I mean, we're not getting this from the providers at all. This is all Don.
It's a little rough. I know looks a little bit messy. I can dress it up a little.
You're a humble man, but that is great stuff. I haven't seen any analysis like this, so this is great. I'm sure there are other things we could add to it, but there are a couple hands up I want to get to. Terrence had his hand up for a while.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I guess I was just kind of a question of clarity. In the circle you have highlighted at the side of the Rip Van Winkle Bridge,
yep.
In my mind, I immediately think of the park and ride lot, and I was wondering if that is state property. If so, does that preclude a charger going there? And I guess if I think about that, I think, well, that'd be great for the people who want to park, go for their walk across the bridge or down into Catskill and back. But then, do we want to be careful about putting it in a place where someone might park their car in the morning and keep it at the charger until they come back after work.
Right, right. Yes. And well, I think the way what I found, because I recently bought a EV, so I'm learning this. But what I found is a lot of these DC fast chargers, if you leave them charged in for past the point of full charge, they will start charging you by the minute after that. So to combat that problem. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's right. It's pretty effective.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jennifer, hi.
Hi. A couple of questions. One is, I mean, the access to the grid, it seems like the two things you looked at here was access to appropriate places on the grid.
Mhm.
And then also you're kind of talking about places where someone has amenities nearby, but that seemed secondary. But I would think that I'm assuming that it's your sort of pink circles here are the ones that you identified as appropriate places. Is
Right.
that- And you could quickly cut that list in half if you look at places where there are people are going to want to hang out for a little while.
Yeah.
It,
Yeah.
it seems like using those two criteria. But anyway, this is fabulous. So my question was, I'm confused about how this connects to what I'm forgetting his name now, the guy from Stuyvesant, who had to leave the meeting early. Ron
Supervisor Knott.
Knott.
Yeah.
He talked about the Patterns for Progress presentation on EV chargers. Is that,
Mhm.
what's that and how does that intersect with your Livingston Energy?
I
connection?
don't know. I don't know if anyone does. I don't know Patterns for Progress. I don't know what that presentation is. So he just mentioned it. It's the first time I'm hearing about it.
Okay.
So I can follow up with him.
He suggested it was an organization that helps people figure out where to put chargers. So I'm thinking that
exactly.
that's, we should get some clarity on that.
Yeah,
And then,
it is a, yeah, it's a general economic development organization, and they're not specific to like climate change or EV charging or anything, but they've been around a long time. It's and they do a lot of like helping
planning stuff.
more regional
Okay.
economic development planning efforts. Yes, and they put together a really good presentation that I think Brenda sent me a link to that, and I think I'll pass that around to everybody. But it's a really good presentation on the benefits of citing these, EV chargers, both
Okay.
DC fast chargers and level 2s around, how what are the things you might consider and how to
Right.
identify good sites for these chargers.
Perfect. So that'll be helpful for us.
I'll send that out to everybody.
And then finally, just so we're talking about private land, like what would our role be if we're talking about trying to get a private business to put one of these on their land? Is something that the county would put resources in to help make that happen and they would just host it? Or what's the relationship with a private business and what's our role there?
As of right now, there's no relationship. I mean, there could be, a co-owned owned and operated between a private business and the municipality, the county, or another municipality. That's a possibility. You can structure that if the county wanted to do that. I mean, everything I've heard, and I don't think this is at all definitive, is that, there's probably not a great appetite for that, given the uncertainty about demand charges and whether this will actually bring in revenue or cost the county money, and the uncertainty about how much to budget for. So I think it seems the private businesses are interested in this on a longer term perspective, where they do see growth in this investment. And so there might be some incentive for Livingston Energy. There is incentive for them to come in and develop sites when it's the appropriate site. I think our role is really to help just kind of bring people to the county, help bring the information as to where we think there are locations that make sense, perhaps make introductions, because I'm sure there are local businesses that among our group or people that our group know. We could get access to the principal people involved in those businesses and have a conversation and provide a context that was local and not just a company coming to them saying, hey, would you be interested in this? So
Okay, got
making
it. So just greasing the wheels, trying to make
grease in the
it happen
wheels.
faster.
It could be if there is a location that has, any kind of county land or state land, maybe there's a landlord tenant opportunity there. Maybe the county, if there is some county land somewhere where this could be set, it doesn't own and operate, but becomes a landlord to the business that does, and charges rent, or doesn't charge rent, but gets a significant amount of funding for developing the site in that way, but doesn't leave the county on the hook for the liability of the operation of the facility.
Okay, so similar to we had some discussion last month about a fast charger at the airport where there's a private company that wants to start a new business there. So something
Yeah,
like
so that
Okay.
actually is happening according to Ron. I just talked to him yesterday. And the name of, if you want to check it out, it's beta.team.
Yeah, I looked
Team.
at it last month.
Yeah.
Super
So they
interesting.
are like electric helicopters.
Delivery systems, right?
And they're delivery systems, I think, for medical supplies in particular, maybe organs. And they have these transit routes in the Northeast, and they're looking to expand it. They already have some of these chargers in at different airports, and apparently they have an RFP out for Columbia County Airport, and they're looking for companies to build this out. So I think this is funded and ready to go forward. And Supervisor Knott is waiting on a press release from them, a draft that with more detailed information. This, according to him, will include a fast charger that is public facing for people to use and pay for. So at the very least, it seems within the next year or so, we should have at least one non-Tesla fast charger at the airport, so one in the county, which is a great start. And that's a good location. It has a
so
lot
we
of
would
traffic.
take that one off our list because it's already taken.
Yeah, we don't have it even on. We're not even, it's not really, it might be on here, but it's not really something we would bring anyone to look at as a potential because I think it's already happening, which is great. So that's kind of where we're at. We had talked a little bit about Hudson. It seems like Hudson isn't the common element for the DC fast chargers, it seems, is in addition to the basic infrastructure needed, is traffic flows and transient traffic, or locations where you would go to run errands for a half hour, an hour, grocery stores, liquor stores, hardware stores, stuff like that, where it makes sense to go and it's in a good location. That's certainly been my experience and how I've used them. Hudson's kind of a little different. You're not really driving through Hudson. Some people might go, they will go to Hudson as a destination. So it's unclear, not to mention the grid being limited, whether that really invites, at least at this stage, whether it makes sense to be thinking about a fast charger there. There are some level 2 chargers that I don't think they get a lot of use. They're not really very good. I've used one of them behind the DMV, and they're very slow even for a level 2. So there maybe is some opportunity for improved level 2 charging where it makes sense to get 30 miles per hour of charge for a few hours there. If you're going for dinner and you're walking around a bit, that might actually make sense. And so there could be an assessment there where we look at the existing level 2 chargers in Hudson and see if there's any opportunity for improvement. And then the county is also looking at putting in charging stations as part of an effort to expand its fleets or to transition its fleets over into electric vehicles. And those would likely be county facilities, and unclear whether they would also be available to the public. But that's kind of a process that's going on. We'll get back to that in a minute when we get to the fleet inventory. Christina.
Hey, this is so interesting. I just wanted to add, right by the bridge also is Alana, where people often walk for an hour. And I know they're putting in that whole new parking lot and stuff. So that could be an interesting one. And if Germantown becomes in your top people there, right near that intersection of 9G and Main Street is a town park that has a walking trail that's very popular. So it might be neat to put them like in nature-oriented places instead of necessarily at businesses.
Mhm. Yeah, I think there's a lot of compelling aspects to the bridge there. There's that roundabout, the state land, the walk across, like you're saying, Alana, and that Stewart's there is it's just a Stewart's. It's not like you might get a coffee or go get something inside, but I think most people that are using that are just sitting in their car. And it's actually a little bit far to walk down to the bridge from there. So this other site might actually be really good. Again, we're gonna go back to Livingston and present kind of our greatest spots, what we think are the best spots we've highlighted to y'all. If you have any other ideas, let us know, and we can add them to the list and do the same kind of assessment here to see if they seem to rank high on these different criteria. And then we'll just keep you updated. If anyone wants to tag along or be part of these discussions, more than happy to have more folks join us in that. But Don and I will continue to communicate with them and keep you updated. Okay, so unless there's anything else, Don, anything else on this?
No, the question in my mind is about the state land too. Wondering if the state is going to install any fast chargers at their, we've got Claremont, we've got Olana, other,
Yeah.
state parks and things that would seem, that's beyond the county's purview of course, but it's a question that's come up in my mind if they're have any plans to do any of this at the parks, so, I don't know.
We can make an inquiry and
Yeah.
see if we can find out if there's any program that's being planned to do that. We should certainly be aware if there's any efforts by other parties to be doing something in the county so that we don't pursue something that would be maybe not so complementary to those efforts. So that's a good one. We'll put it on our list to look into that. Okay, so those are all of the current actions. Actions under consideration. And this will go, I think, pretty quickly. But the fleet inventory, fleet efficiency policy. These are vehicles, right? And fleet right sizing are they are all elements of an effort to gather information and establish policies and then transition the current fleet that the county owns for vehicles, small and big, to owned and leased, to electric vehicles in the coming years. They also happen to get us points, but it's a structured process to do so, which we think make a whole lot of sense, and we'd like to move forward on at least the fleet inventory to start. But Don, do you want to give a quick overview of just we don't have to get into the deepest details, but just a quick overview of what is involved in these different actions.
Right. Again, it's the names are pretty self-explanatory. Fleet inventory is just compiling a spreadsheet of every vehicle that the county owns or leases and operates on a highway. How old is it? How many miles per gallon does it get? What fuel does it use? All these things. The policy part is, well, does the county have some policy for replacing these vehicles with more efficient vehicles in the future? And the fleet right sizing one is making sure is just a way to keep track of, making sure that the county doesn't have more vehicles than it needs, I guess. And I did a little research on it, and I do have some examples of the fleet inventories, the fleet policies, which are usually pretty short. They're only like 4 pages long. There aren't very many that have done. I haven't found any yet that have done the fleet right sizing. because that actually requires reducing your fleet by at least 10% before you get any points. And I'm just assuming that most counties are already doing them. I don't think there are very many counties that have fleets that are have an excess of more than 10% vehicles. It just doesn't make financial sense. So I'm just assuming that's why no one has really applied for that action yet. I talked to Ron Knott and Patrice about these couple of actions, and from what they've told me, the county probably already has a fleet inventory somewhere. I mean, it's just, again, it makes common sense that a county that has hundreds and hundreds of vehicles wants to keep track of them. It's just a matter of tracking down where this inventory is, if it's in one place, or maybe it might be in a couple of different departments, might be tracking their own fleet inventories. And there is a policy adopted. Nobody knows exactly how old it is, but we are going to try to dig that out and take a look at it and see if the Board of Supervisors is interested in updating that policy in accordance with the CSC action requirements. I looked into the National Grid inventory that was mentioned last month, and that it's a little bit outside of the CSC action fleet inventory. That's really more of an inventory of the infrastructure, the grid infrastructure where the county stores its vehicles. So again, something similar to the map, this rudimentary map that I put together, a little more with a little more detail about if the county buys 10 EV vehicles and they store them at the county highway garage on 23B, is a grid able to supply the power needed for those vehicles? So that's the National Grid inventory that was mentioned last month by a couple of folks.
Great. Thanks, Don. So we plan on bringing a resolution next month to the task force to move forward with these actions. And again, they're not they're informational and directional, but they're not mandating or requiring in and of themselves the purchase or lease of new EV vehicles, but new EVs. But that is certainly a desire that the county has to do that. So this hopefully will provide an informational platform for them to make decisions as to how to bring those on board. So it brings some coherence to a general desire, so we can actually start seeing where the opportunities are for which vehicles to replace first, and then getting a policy so that the county is kind of speaking with a single mind in terms of how its intention to move forward when and if and when possible for vehicles that are available. So that's what's going on there. We'll bring that back. But if anyone has any comments, questions, or any other follow-up questions after this, please reach out to me and Don. Any other thoughts on that? If not, we will move forward. So we've talked a bunch about a community greenhouse gas inventory, and Don is doing a government operations inventory and community inventory. I just want to be clear on definitions. I've heard people, a couple people say that they've heard, oh, we're going to go out if we do this and interview all sorts of farmers and individual businesses and ask them for information. How many tractors do you have? How much fuel do you use? We're not doing any of that. That's not what's involved here. This is not looking for private information. This is looking for publicly. It's acquiring and organizing publicly available information like electric usage on the grid for the entire, not just for the county government, but for the entire county. That's information that's publicly available or available through the grids publicly. Looking at traffic flows and using algorithms to figure out the consumption of fuel for transport. That's also information that's publicly available. So there's no private information. What the community aspect is the scope of the analysis, but it's not related to where the data come from. And so The data are public, and we would like to pursue this. We need to, in order to have a baseline for our county that is updated to the present. So when we move forward, we know whether we're making improvement and where we can focus our energy. And this is the precursor to a climate action plan, as we've talked about. Don and I, after looking at some of the alternatives that we have discussed here, eClay, who presented to us a couple months ago, and some other opportunities or other formats for collecting and organizing the data, we feel that we should look to hire someone, eClay or someone else, who can do this work with our input and with our guidance and direction, but do this work as a consultant because we just simply don't have the time to track down the information. And we think it can be done at a reasonable cost. And as we said previously, we have brought in some funding. So we would like to pursue a request to the Board of Supervisors for a certain amount of funding to conduct an RFP to hire a contractor, maybe eClay or maybe someone else, to do this work under our guidance for next year. And so we will bring this resolution to everyone before next meeting to consider, and then we'll vote on it. And we will also bring some information on the data that are collected, so you understand, to that point of like what actually goes into this. An example report of what this looks like, and the resolution, of course, so that when we present this to, assuming we move forward with it, to the government committee and to the board, the full board, they have all the information they need to understand what it is we're asking for. I plan on asking for a preliminary proposal from eClay to at least understand scope and potential costs, so we can put a number out there for a request for funding. And I think this is the most prudent approach. However, yesterday we got an email from Tara, which might short circuit this. So I wanted to give her an opportunity to update us. It seems like the state is moving forward with some other programs which might preempt the need for this our own effort here. But it's new, so I don't really know much about it other than that. Tara, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. So the federal government, through the Inflation Reduction Act, which you've all probably heard of, has started to roll out this money in different ways. And one of these is these categories is the pollution reduction planning and implementation grants. So I'm just going to talk about the planning piece here, but basically they're giving, the federal government through the EPA is giving $3 million to each state in the country, as well as $1 million to each of the 67 largest metropolitan areas in the country. So the Albany capital region is one of those 67. Fortunately, the population threshold we've met, but like Syracuse are not. So it's a little funny how some communities get in and some don't. But basically, the gist of it is, even if a community is not included, they would be included under the state's kind of $3 million piece of this. So the funding is for community greenhouse gas inventories and community climate action plans. Specifically. And then the second piece of that is, I don't know the number, but in the billions of dollars of implementation funding that's going to kind of follow the planning. So, you obviously have a plan, you have a process, and then, once you've identified what you'd like to do, there's going to be money kind of coming down the road for implementation projects to actually do these things. This is all mitigation, so nothing to do with adaptation or resilience, strictly about reducing greenhouse gases. The question that we have so it's a non-competitive grant. Who manages this? CDRPC has put in our notice of intent to the federal government with the support of the largest city, which is the city of Albany in the capital region. Albany, of course, doesn't want to do this regional plan. That's a big load for a city government. But we did the 2010 plan with our contractor, Climate Action Associates, and I think this makes a lot of sense. The question here is whether or not Columbia County is included in the capital region, because the way the federal government defines it is obviously different than the state. We are hoping to pull in Columbia County under this process as opposed to leave it to the state to do it because of the work we've been doing here anyways. But we're just unclear about that. So actually there is a call at this very moment with some folks from the EPA and DEC who will be managing the state process, as well as my director, Todd Fabosi, and some of the other cities in New York State, including New York City, who are getting this money to coordinate that process and see, like, you know, which communities are included in ours versus the state's process, how the state is going to approach this process with like a methodology that makes sense kind of across the board, because we don't want to do something different than the state is doing, if that makes sense. We kind of want to have a kind of something that can kind of you know, work between regions and between the state and the capital region and in all over. So the details of that are being ironed out, but the money is there and it's going to happen. And actually they want a pretty short timeline for this process. They're looking at a basic kind of climate action plan by next March. So it's a really short timeline. And then in, I think, 2 to 3 years, they're looking for kind of a more comprehensive climate action plan. Exciting that it's a good short timeline, because I think they're really trying to push that this is very critical, but also a lot of work in a short period of time.
Thank you, Tara.
Yeah, that's the update I have.
That's a good update. Do you have any sense of when this question about Columbia County being included or not, you'll know?
In the next month. So we actually have to submit a grant application by the end of this month, or no, I'm sorry, by the end of May. The state has to submit their application by the end of this month. So whether or not the state includes this or we do, it'll be decided at that point.
So by the end of April, we'll know.
Yes.
Definitively.
Yep.
Because that would preempt, you know, obviously we wouldn't go forward with any request locally unless we felt like there was some complementary work that we wanted to do or thought was necessary, which wouldn't be covered under this other program. For example, we have talked about looking at sources and sinks in our land use, which may not always be included in some of these inventories. I don't know how robust this program will be in that regard. Do you have any sense?
That's a great question. I think we're trying to make it as robust as we possibly can, but with the funding, you know, we have to figure out some of those logistics, which I think is the discussion between, you know, all those parties I mentioned before right now. The one thing that we are still suggesting communities move forward with regardless of whether or not the state is doing a regional climate action plan, is their own community climate action plans, because you're not going to get the level of detail in these plans that you're probably going to want to see for your region, for your county, for your town. You know, you'll be able to pull from it, and obviously it should be reflective, but you know, it's a good idea to do your own. We're actually talking with Albany County, who already received the funding for the Climate Smart Communities funding for a climate action plan and greenhouse gas inventory for community work. And they're kind of like, well, now this is here, what do we do? So we're trying to talk with them about the same question of, you know, maybe we can help you with the greenhouse gas piece because we're going to be doing that, but you should maybe still use the funding for climate community climate action planning.
Is that something that has to happen sequentially after the broader plan, or do you know, and after the inventory, or do you see it happen concurrently?
I think it's going to have to happen sequentially, because I mean, you're going to take the data from the greenhouse gas inventory and obviously kind of set some goals on that based on what you think. But I do think some of this work is going to have to start moving. The groups are going to have to start meeting to talk about ideas and things because of the short timeline. So
okay. Yeah, you know, there's a lot of money in the Inflation Reduction Act for land use and agroforestry, even though it doesn't get a lot of I mean, and transitioning farming and natural climate solutions, even though it doesn't get a lot of attention. So it would be logical that there'd be some attention to that, and not just have it be technology focused. But that I guess we'll find out. So we will just kind of wait and see what we hear. But I think in the meantime, we'll probably proceed with this information collection and getting a sense of what this might cost if we're not included for some reason and we want to go forward on our own. That is helpful. I don't know if anyone has any other questions for Tara or thoughts on this. Oh, I had one other question, which is the CSC funding, the grants. Those are match grants, right?
Correct, 50% match. So
So
and
we
that
could,
should be announced next month is when the
so the
CFP.
timing's really good here. I mean, we could ask the county for half of what we expect we need and the approval to, put together a grant application for the other half with the support of the county. We could raise more money that way. If we can't be included in this broader project, but that's exciting. Thank you, Tara. So more on that will come. The last item before we adjourn, I believe, is the website. We're looking at ways to unnest the website to make it easier for people to access. And then, of course, we'll want to improve and update the website with more information. This is a broader involved project. There's a lot of there are a lot of ideas around and requests in the county from local groups to have some sort of coordinating calendar of events and some more information, which will help bring some coherence to the various groups that are out there working. And the website could be a good platform for that. Also, just more general information that people are seeking on what are these solutions, how do I access them, and what can I do, how do they benefit me, and how do they benefit all of us. That type of information would be important, and I think a role for us to play. So the first question is really a technology question that Don and his team are looking at as to whether we can create a simpler URL from the kind of convoluted one that exists now with the Google Sites. That's the legacy of kind of how that was set up. And I don't think Don had an update, but we're looking into that. And then following on, we'll be looking to get into the substance of what we want to try to do with the website. But I think it's an important and unused or underused platform that will help us communicate and educate, which is part of our mission. So that's all we have. I don't know if there are any additions. If we've left anything out, if anyone wants to add anything for next time, just let us know.
Yep, just to point out that the addition to the agenda is sort of a distilled, I know I sent out some larger documents last month with a spreadsheet of all the actions and descriptions there. So that couple of pages that's added to the agenda is just a distillation of sort of everything that we're working on in the county right now, not just the task force, but other departments in the county. I've tried to organize it in some sensible way, so it might make a little more sense to you. If you have any, take a look at that. If you have any comments on that, send them my way.
Great stuff. Well, thanks everyone for taking time out of your busy weeks and days to come to this meeting. It's always really helpful to hear everyone's feedback and input. Keep it coming, and happy spring. Hope everyone's out there getting your hands in the dirt or getting on a bike or whatever it is that makes you happy. And thanks again. So we'll see y'all soon.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.